order at 6:30. And everyone please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. All right, thank you. And if everybody can make sure their mics are close by. I heard some people were hard to hear last time. All right, Billy, could you do a roll call, please?
Henderson,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Ludke.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and we'll open public forum. Does anybody have anything for public forum? Yep, come on up.
Brian Langlois, 232nd Avenue. I've had this general thought in mind for quite some time. Seeing the framed information on the walls. Any thought to put in a copy of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and framing it and having it in this room?
It's an interesting thought.
That way people can actually read the document, take a picture of it, bring it home, study it, learn it.
Oh, I appreciate that. We'll take it under consideration.
Thank
I
you.
think that's a good idea. Thank you, Brian. All right, anybody else for public forum? All right, hearing none, we'll close public forum section. And we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes, additions, modifications? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to approving the consent agenda. Again, any changes or modifications to that section?
That one, I would like to pull the 6.14, the tire service quote.
Okay. Pull 614. And we don't have a new business section, so we'll just do that right after the approval of the consent agenda. All right, any other modifications or changes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept it.
I'll second it.
Need a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Great, motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
401, please. All right, and we'll take off with A1 tire service quote. Andy?
Oh, I just would like to, we just got that and we had our meeting, and then, if we remember in the workshop, there were the questions around the truck. The truck was fine. And then we got this quote that we need to do more work than the truck is probably worth. So I just want to have more discussion on that with recycling, and then obtain another quote just to make sure we're tracking the right way with a 30-year-old truck.
Okay. Yeah, I know the first initial quote that came in was like 2,700 or 2,800 because it included tires. Yeah, and then the contractor said that they checked the tires and that there's enough tread on it to where they don't need to be replaced. So they took those off the quote. So, but this quote is parts and labor is for $2,014.19. Thoughts on it?
A second quote might be a good idea, possibly, for that amount of money.
Yeah, I checked and it sounds like none of the work has been performed yet. I was a little worried because it said there was a charge for diagnostics fees, and the result was a certain module needed to be replaced. So I was like, well, how would you know the module needed to be replaced if you didn't do the scan on it? But we were told that they haven't done any work on it yet. So What do people think about getting a second quote? Second quote, bring it back at the next meeting? All right. All right. I'll make a motion that we table this till the next meeting, pending a second quote. Is there a second? This is the blue one that's being used by recycling. And for the record, the question was, which truck was it that we were referring to?
1997 F-150 for recycling.
Okay.
I will second that motion.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then, yeah, we'll get that back to Paul and see if he wants to get that second quote. All right, thanks for pulling that, Andy. Appreciate it. All right. Move on to old business. 7.1 is human resources service contract. Supervisor Cole.
Right, so we've got two contracts should have been emailed to everybody. Because I could not get confirmation from Thompson Co. whether they were okay with us making their like pricing scheme and everything publicly available. So we just opted to do not for public distribution on both of these. But we could talk about them. These are the two quotes we have for HR services. One is significantly cheaper than the other. I'll talk about the differences between them, but just I guess I'll start with the price. Abdo is at $2,425 per month. And that includes 50 hours of HR support, additional support billed hourly, and we've had 2 Q&A sessions with them, so everybody should be clear on what's offered there. My HR Genius is the second quote I was able to get from Thompson Co. I do have a conflict of interest with them. I know the attorney who introduced me to them and who works there. So if we're voting on them, I suppose that means I'll abstain. And they are offering what they call my HR Genius program, which has 3 levels, either $99 a month, $129 a month, or $399 a month. So either way, no matter how you cut it, much less than $2,400 a month. However, they will not work on, let me look at, I want to make sure there's a few differences between them. So I hope everybody's reviewed this just in case I misspeak, but they will work on any issue that can typically be addressed in 15 minutes over email or phone, and they'll just do that as part of what's included with it. If it can't be addressed in that time, or it typically can't be addressed in that time, they would just bill us at their legal rate, which they have also in the contract, fairly expensive. If we go for the $399 a month, we get a 10% discount on that rate. But they says right here, Thompson Co. reserves the right to determine what is not within the parameters of what can be addressed typically in 15 minutes. So it's very bare bones. And if we talk about the issue of the paid leave administrator, by the end of the month, and I mentioned this in the request for action, by the end of the month, we have to report to the government, we have to register who our paid leave administrator is for the township. And let me pull up my RFA because I had some notes in here that I want to make sure I hit. The person in this role needs to be capable of understanding like what paid leave is and answering questions about them. So it's not me. I don't think it's anybody on this board. Thompson Co. will not act as our paid leave administrator. Abdo will. No additional cost that we can register them as our paid leave administrator. And any questions they get regarding paid leave fall under their normal pricing. It goes under the flex hours as if it was any HR issue. Thompson Co. will answer questions about paid leave if it falls under the 15 minutes, but they won't let us register them as the township's official paid leave administrator. So that is the simplest way I can put it. There is a Q&A for this if anybody has questions. Other than that, I'd like, the intention for tonight is to vote on adopting one or the other or neither.
All right, any questions for Sam? Any comments, feedback for him?
Oh, just thanks for all the work. I know we had,
It was super fun.
we had the workshops. I think Abdo presented a great presentation on the services they can offer.
Yeah, when I looked through them, the one is what I'd define as extremely limited. I mean, you're basically paying for the ability to call and ask a question that lasts in less than 15 minutes. So
Mhm.
that tells me they're not going to actually engage and assist. They're just basically there as a informational resource is the way I read it.
Right.
So
It's not, it didn't strike me as their main line of business. It's kind of
No.
like they're a firm.
So
This is one
they're,
of the things they
so they're
do.
not gonna help with the hiring, with onboarding, with if we've got an actual HR issue that's gonna take extensive time to work through.
Mhm.
The paid leave administrator, like you said, we don't have that with them. So although I thought that they were the type of a company that we were looking for like a year or so ago. We were just looking for somebody that we could ask HR questions to, but now we're beyond that point. And so they would have sufficed then, but not so much now for what our current need is, in my opinion. But that was my take on it. The other one is more of it costs more, but you're getting a full package. You're getting somebody that's basically going to take the lead on a lot of our HR stuff rather than us having to lead and be responsible and accountable for that.
Right. And, you know, maybe 1 year it gets us really fixed up, gets a lot of things clarified. At some point we determine maybe we just need something a little lighter weight like Thompson Co. I think that would be totally in the cards depending on how this goes, but I agree with your sentiment, John, that the more expensive option is the better one.
So with Abdo, so would we sign a contract, a month-to-month contract, or is it an annual contract? Do you remember? I don't remember off the top of my head if I seen that in the terms.
I know it's one of those questions that they probably answered at some point.
Yeah,
Because we've been doing this for months, but
because what I'm wondering,
But I don't remember for sure.
I know it's billed monthly. But in terms of like what happens if we want to break the contract is what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
because if this board makes a commitment, at 24, 25 a month, I mean, basically, we're committing to $7,500 or a little less than that if we're prorated for October, so maybe $5,000 for the last 2 months. So that's what we would have to come up with out of the budget to cover those costs. And then we gotta figure out where the 30,000 comes from in next year.
How much would an administrator cost? How much would it?
Like an HR professional.
Oh,
What's-
for a,
what's the
if we had
total
an
here?
admin
for
person
a, for a
or-
leave of,
If they're full-time, a lot more. Let's do a. Yeah, so 24, 25 times 12 is about, 30,000 a year, like John just said. Like maybe a part-time HR. I know we've looked at part-time HR. I don't think it's ever been realistic. Like it's really expensive. A full-time HR employee, like, I don't know, but upwards of $100,000 a year. So I don't think that's an option.
if it's a month to month, then it would be nice to get a couple months, get November and December under our belt with them and see how things are going.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of the try it before you completely buy it kind of a scenario, but that would give us an opportunity to see exactly how this works with them. But if it's a annual, well, then we're in it for the year to year, so a little bit more of a more difficult time making that decision, I think, at this point, but
Do we want to potentially motion to approve this? Given that it is, or assuming that it's a month to month, I can go confirm that, and if it is, then you can sign it without having to wait till the next board meeting, or do we need to push this to the next board meeting?
no, I think we can do a contingent upon that.
Okay,
Yeah, if that's what the board wants to
Yeah,
do.
we could try it and see, no, at least for the rest of this year, make the decision for January.
okay, then I'll make a motion to sign this contract with Abdo contingent on me reaching out and confirming with them that we are not. Well, that could get complicated. Let me rescind that motion. What are we looking for? Like, that we can cancel it at a moment's notice?
Well, there'll always be a 30-day notice given. I would just do it where you're gonna make the motion to move forward with the contract, contingent upon a month-to-month or a trial period of services. And that it's not an, just so that we don't get into an annual thing. Bob, and Andy, what are you guys thinking? You're really quiet over there. That scares me.
Oh, we're both looking at them donuts again. It just seems like a company like that isn't gonna get anything accomplished in 2 months. My thought, I mean, that's their proposal. I mean, all the stuff they wanna do and all the stuff they can do, it'd be really hard to get anything accomplished in 2 months.
I'm fine with them. I think it's long overdue. From what I perused, it's the notice is in there for. I don't think there's nothing saying it's an annual.
Or if we could do a 6-month trial.
Yeah, I'm having trouble wording the motion because I don't know if I'm gonna go to them tomorrow. They're gonna say no, like. You can do like a 3-month trial, and then we've got this motion.
6 months, because you got, I mean, if they're.
We, again, from what we had at the last workshop, we have identified funds that could allocate for it. I'm not worried on the fund side. And it's long overdue and it's needed for staff. You have employees, need to pay for the employees, and this is a service that provides for that. So you're gonna just get it to where you're going back and having 2 months of work and then start over. Doesn't make sense.
To me personally, yeah, their answer on whether they can do month to month isn't really going to affect my decision.
So make the motion for the full thing and see if it passes.
All right. Motion to move forward with the township, motion to move forward with the Abdo proposal for HR services for Linwood Township.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
So there is enough funds to cover this.
That's
There
what we
is.
looked at.
Yeah.
Yep. During the budget workshops.
I'm trying to remember. So, all right.
Right. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes 4-1. All right. And did you want to open it up for any questions and answers, or you good?
Anybody have any questions?
Okay, hearing none, we'll close out 7.1 and we'll go to 7.2, which is a code of conduct update.
Okay.
Back to you, Sam.
This one should be pretty simple, I think. At the last board meeting, I had some questions about the agenda and we clarified them and I just put them in. So if you look at, there's a red line, basically. I clarified that all of the kind of stuff that the code of conduct says about how the agenda should be prepared, that's referring to items in old or new business. It's not referring to items on the consent agenda. You don't need to put somebody's name next to it. Don't need to put a description. If an agenda item has a request for action, that counts as the description. So you don't need to like duplicate this description on the request for action and then put it on. So if there's a request for action, that suffices for a description. If there's not a request for action, there should be a bullet point underneath explaining what it is. And then that's all that was made to the code of conduct. And then there was also an appendix added to the very end of the code of conduct, which just shows an example of an item that does not have a request for action and what that would look like with the bullet points and the sponsorship. So I'd motion to adopt these changes into the code of conduct.
Great, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Only thing I had on it was probably to expand upon this would be to have an actual agenda template, because I think we could constantly be going down this if that was something new, but if we just define the agenda and have a, much like the appendix, like, I mean, I would expand on what you have there to just be a full agenda example. Then everyone sees it, everyone knows it. And that's really what you're approving, is what the agenda looks like. You know, the words that go up in there, that's how you get there.
Mhm.
I would like to see, you know, a memo or something to understand. You might not be requesting action, it might be information.
Mhm.
But to be able to have, you know, some of the history, especially if it's something that you're coming back 3 months later on, to be able to reference it back to the June 17th meeting that we discussed this option, to be able to have stuff for historical background.
Mhm.
Because you could be refreshing somebody's mind on something and the topic at hand. But I think the agenda example would be that's what I took from it when in that discussion. I thought that's what we were doing, because that would then lay out what the agenda looks like.
So if we waited till, let's say, next town board meeting, let's say there's an item on the next town board meeting that doesn't have a request for action, has a description on it, and it was formatted according to that appendix, would that be a good enough example for you? Or are you saying there's something else that needs to change about the structure of our agenda?
The structure in itself, I think, and just from the conversations I've had, would give the clarity. I think ultimately too, we're missing the fact of the clerk's role in this, and being able to support staff when they have topics and what they have, to be able to know what it looks like if it's not coming from a supervisor. I don't know, is there anything from your perspective that you guys need when things come through that would help support in building the agenda? I know, because I want to get this right.
Everything that you have in the code of conduct as far as the agenda goes is great. The only thing is not everybody all the time provides like an RFA or tells me they want a description.
Mhm.
So it's, I guess, maybe allowing me to police that a little bit.
Sure.
So if I had a template that I could back it up with and say, well, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what I need. This is what I need to ask for. I think that would be very, very helpful. And
Okay.
everybody can be able to see it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense, and I have thought on that, but I have another thought on something Andy said. So I don't want to forget. For how staff gets stuff on the agenda, that is defined in the code of conduct. They have to go through one of the supervisors currently. We could change that.
Correct, but they don't always, because you just approved a whole bunch of stuff in the consent agenda that did, so I think having that.
Items in old or new business.
Correct.
So you're.
But I'm saying that would help, because the consent agenda is the same as the agenda. It's the overall meeting agenda. And that would just lay out that template so people know what's what.
So are you saying that we should just maybe explore the consent agenda more on how, and set some rules around that? Or
It's like, I mean, look at some of the documents, they're just there, but do you know why they're there? You know, what's the history of what this is or what
or
was
who put them
accepted?
there?
And that's fine if that's the board's flavor, but to me, the information is what are you consuming in that And if it's just a spreadsheet,
Would it be better to have each one of those things identified or at least sectioned off? Like each supervisor who submits a consent agenda item, like we'll start with John as the chair, has submitted these 3 items. And then Lisa and so forth throughout the consent agenda items. Would that be helpful to kind of clarify any, like, who put this on here? I get that question kind of a lot, is who put this on the consent agenda?
Or either that, or if it's easier, just put parentheses with a name behind it. Either way is, but yeah, just something to identify it.
Or, I mean, do you want to get that down in the weeds in it, or do you want to just set some parameters about how consent agenda items get to the consent agenda?
That's what I'm wondering. Because on one hand, I think I see on what Andy is saying, where it's like, well, an item can just be on the consent. There's not really much of a difference between something on the consent agenda and something in old or new business. The main difference being is that it's so minor, it could just be voted on in one go. But they really are the same thing. Like John could put something in the consent agenda that he wants voted on. But on the other hand, claims list, approval of meeting minutes. Like, do we need to go through like a process there and be like, whose name is on the approval of the meeting minutes?
Those things are coming from me.
Right.
From Alicia.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are gonna be static items every meeting.
I think it'd be mainly like for the truck bill.
I'm gonna pick on you a little bit, John, sorry.
That's okay.
Like the policy for the garbage thing. There was questions about who put this on here and are we looking for a vote? Cause that was when it was on the new business portion.
Mhm.
So.
Those questions came from
and
me.
then
Just,
it was-
just
It got changed. It was my error because it should have been on the consent agenda to begin with, but I'm wondering, should that one have been on the consent agenda? Should that would have been a new business? It's those types of parameters, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Is what items should go there for you guys.
And the other thing too is always keep in mind, you can always pull something out of the consent agenda, just like Andy did.
Mhm.
Something that, even if you have just a quick question, pull it out, ask your question, we talk about it in public and go from there.
So I think maybe, let me just maybe clarify how this started, because what had happened was the original agenda had that general garbage dumpster policy on new business, I think. And I had seen that it didn't have, I think it had your name on it, but it didn't have a request for action or a description, but it did have a link to the policy document. And so not trying to attack anybody, which I made clear to Billy in the email, but I was just like, okay, so is this, I just wanted to let her know, I was like, I probably wouldn't want to talk about this during the meeting because at the last meeting, we had talked about, if it doesn't have a request for action, it should have the description. Then that's how we ended up here. And Billy's wondering, well, is it Billy's role to tell you that? Or is it our role to tell you that during the meeting? Or do we want to relax the rules a bit? And then Andy's got all this stuff about the consent agenda, and do we want to tighten the rules on the consent agenda? So I think the conversation is getting a little mixed up.
tighten as much as you probably hit it right on the head. We've got to empower staff to be able to not be muddled down with questions back and forth between what or what. Instead of just fine, police it. If you submit something that doesn't meet this criteria,
Mhm.
it's not going on. And that's, to me, that's a simple thing, because that gets it moving forward. Now, the technicalities of human error, that's where we're all at. We're human. But, if something ended up in the wrong place, it got corrected. But to that fact, if there was a request for an action, then, there probably should be something with it, or in the sense of what this appendix says, here's a memo of, because we can come back to something months later and it's like, here's the backstory, here's the link, let staff help support that. Like, here's the meeting that this was discussed and here's the follow-up coming to it.
So to keep it simple for tonight, do we want to maybe me and you connect about the consent agenda?
And to be clear, I'm saying agenda. When I say agenda, that's the whole thing, because that's what that is. It's the meeting agenda.
Mhm.
And provide an example.
Okay,
That example is now the template that the board knows they should be seeing. And is the playbook for staff to be able to police to say, well, no, this is. You haven't met this criteria for me to put this on because the board approved this. This example. For the names to be, like you have right there, for the name to be by it and who's gonna be on it down here, who's the sponsor. And then what criteria too for staff, because. Some of the stuff in there is just. In there.
so let me rephrase real quick, just so to simplify it. Would be helpful if for now we just leave the policy with the changes that I'm requesting here. As is, understanding that there's kind of a loophole right now with the consent agenda, because that's excluded. You could put something on there, it doesn't need to be sponsored, it doesn't need a description, doesn't need a request for action. Leave that there, we'll address that eventually, but for tonight, do we want to just simplify it? And also give Billy direction to reject items from the agenda that don't meet the criteria? And then for next time, I can work on what you're talking about, Andy, which is a more holistic view of the entire agenda. Providing an example of the entire agenda, maybe thinking through it a bit more.
I would just assume come back and get it all clean. We want a piecemeal. And approve tonight and then move 2 weeks again. I guess I don't know. I would just assume clean it all up and get something polished. It's not stopping us from understanding the concept of. I'm not scared of the next meeting. I'm not scared of the agendas, I guess.
Yeah.
My theory.
Because we've been kind of working in this code of conduct part of the agenda for a while now.
Mhm.
And every meeting, it's getting closer and closer to what your vision is.
Mhm.
So I think if you wanted to keep it and clean it up a little bit, then we can identify some more things would be a
Sure.
good idea.
That's fine with me.
Brian, come on up.
Brian Langlois, 232nd Ave. Just an observation. What Andy brought up makes perfect sense. We use it every day in our job. We either have standards or specifications, guidelines, and the use of a template is by far the best method for assuring that you get things done correctly. And it should be incumbent on all the board members to have access to that template, that when they're going to put an item on this agenda, that they meet that criteria before it's handed off, because you don't want to have to put another person in position of saying it meets it, or, oh, it's close enough, I know what they meant by this. Then she has to make judgment calls, and it's more streamlined if the person that's submitting the work order, so to speak, put down all the information, they meet all the criteria points. And if they don't, they add a notation on this variant that why they didn't meet this particular bullet point, and that should allow things to move on. So just a observation, and something we use every day.
Right.
Thank you.
I think that is the big question for me right now is whether we want Billy, and we don't have to vote on this tonight. I can just asking questions for when I bring this back, but do we want Billy to be gently reminding supervisors, but ultimately if the supervisor says, put this on the agenda, that goes on the agenda, and then we'll address it during the board meeting and say, hey, when you put this on the agenda, you didn't follow the code of conduct that we all agreed to? Or do we want to tell Billy, you can just don't put it on the agenda if they're not following the policy, or don't even gently remind, like where were people at on, and where are you at on what you would like to do?
Right now, when one of you guys sends me anything, it goes on.
Mhm.
I don't feel, I haven't been given the authority or the empowerment, like Andy says, to say, this isn't right or whatever.
Mhm.
Whatever you send me goes.
Mhm.
In this instance, John told me exactly where he wanted it, and I missed that part and put it where I thought it belonged.
Mhm.
So this whole thing came out from an error.
Sure.
But I mean, it would be nice to be able to say, hey, you know what? I don't have this part, or I need this part, Or where do you need me to put this? What's the description you want me to have? So then that makes my job a little bit easier because this agenda is difficult to put together at times. And I want to make sure that the info that you're getting every meeting is as accurate as possible and as easy to read as possible. Because it goes on the internet and everybody else looks at it too. So,
So it would be easiest for you if you could like remind a
yes.
supervisor.
Because right now I haven't been doing that. I just I get what I get and then I put it where you tell me to put it.
I'd say create a forum or forums. And that way we're answering the questions, filling out the form. And that way Billy sees it in the exact same format, no matter who's submitting it. If you don't fill it out right, well, that's on that person. But I mean, that way you've got consistency, like Andy and Brian were saying, you've got standards that you're following. So Ed, did you wanna say something?
Yeah, Ed Kramer. The consent agenda, it kind of irritates me as a public person. We don't know what you're talking about half the time. Everything's approved. And what irritates me too is, I know Lipke retired from the park. It was just on the consent agenda. No credit for putting their time in, in the park and some of that stuff. I just think we're missing something for the people on all the committees, and if they retire, that we don't give them any credit for what they put in.
Thank you.
That would be one of the template things I'd like. That's where having that template, like we had from time, we had acknowledgements, a lot of the stuff can be there. If there's nothing, there's nothing. We can have an update section because there might not be a topic that needs discussion, but I was at, this meeting. Here's what was talked about. It's the chance to share that information with the board. So it could just be, summary, because we also don't get the minutes all the time from the previous meetings. I'm advocating for it. We've got to get to where we're streaming everything. Then everyone would know what happened at a previous one and see, but we don't have minutes from the previous committee meeting to be able to have discussions and know what's going on here on some of the stuff. So to me, being able to have some of those and have a place for them on an agenda, whether they get acted on or not, there might be nothing, but at least it's that reminder, that template for, oh yeah, they did meet last week. There should probably be on there. That's my 2 cents.
Agreed. Brian?
My voice. Okay. I run a regular meeting at work and I don't know if you folks are using Teams and OneNote. So we use both Teams, and the OneNote is where I keep my agenda. And so running agenda, I've got the template at the top of the page. I copy it, paste it down below in between the last week's meeting and the next meeting. I fill out, and it's got sections on reminders, new business, and so on for either the electrical engineers, the designers, and then we fill in the blanks. And that builds out our agenda, and then it's kept. And the next week, same thing. Normally, I'll take the prior week's, copy it, insert it up above, change the date, wipe out the information that's no longer pertinent, anything that carried over. It gets noted in the prior week's minutes, and it's basically a live document that I work with during our meetings at times. But if you could get yourself set up on that, then you get your legacy information. All of you would have access to it. You can go back and review and know where you were 3 meetings ago or 4 meetings ago. And you've already got the template built to go forward. Like I said, the master template's right at the top of the sheet. And then I just put a double line below it so it distinguishes that that's the template. Anything below it is for whatever week, whatever meeting that we're doing.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a couple of years and works great. I think it might help you guys out.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Thank you. All right. You guys wanna table this until you can work it out? Bring it back to the next meeting? Is that what your thought is?
Motion on the table.
Yes. I'll rescind my motion. If it was for me.
Who seconded? Lisa seconded.
I'll resend my,
Okay, you rescinded your second, you rescinded your motion. Okay.
Just to clarify, yeah, I'm down to table this. Quick question. Do we want to give Susan and Billy as part of this upcoming draft that I'm gonna make, permission to put meeting minutes and claims and variances on the agenda directly without going through a supervisor to sponsor it themselves? Or or we think that they need to go through a supervisor to sponsor those kinds of things?
No, those are just standard. That's town business. There's no supervisor in charge of those. That we have to take action on the claims.
So how would you word that? Like, is there a nice clean way to be like, this stuff, township staff can put directly onto the agenda and this stuff they can't? This stuff they need to go through a supervisor?
I think maybe we draft that template and take a look at it and see then if that makes sense to you and you're like, because to me, this makes sense. We're approving the minutes. I don't need anyone's name by that.
I guess I'm
But-
asking less in terms of the template and more in terms of the policy of. Unless I'm just getting confused, but from what I've been hearing is there's kind of this issue of who's sponsoring the items on the consent agenda. Yeah. Right. Right. That's what I would think. And then, but then the question becomes, if that's the answer, the question becomes, can Billy put her name by minutes? I'd say yes, obviously. And then the question becomes, is there a general rule we can make here that says Billy can do these things, put them right on the agenda all on her own? Or do we just want to say Billy can put stuff on the agenda and that's fine? Billy can sponsor stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay,
There's stuff that's gonna come to the attention of the town
Billy
that-
can sponsor anything?
that the board needs to take action on. I mean, we're gonna have something come through from the county, whatever, like,
Sure.
and if it needs something, there's the request for action, Billy puts her name on it.
I'm fine with that. And it
She's still-
simplifies it. Is anybody not fine with that? Want to discuss it more? Because otherwise that's how I'll draft it.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Perfect. All right, that's all I need.
All right, and then you guys will get together and then bring this back. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's 7.2. So what we have for upcoming meetings, we have a closed meeting coming up on the 20th. That's for performance reviews. So that'll be a closed meeting. I think that starts at 5, wasn't it, Billy? Or 5:30?
It's fine.
5:30. All right, so that's 5:30 on the 20th. Planning and zoning is on October 21st at 6. We have another workshop on October 22nd, and this will be with the auditor. So if you haven't gotten your questions, I think they're coming to you, right, Andy, or to Billy? So if you haven't gotten questions to Billy that you want to go to the auditor, get those so that she can get that to the auditor in advance and they're prepared to answer. And I'll just make things go a little more efficiently. And not that you won't be able to ask questions in the meeting, but we'll get through the meat of it as quick as we can. Let's see, October 27th, we got the Parks meeting at 6 o'clock. The 28th, we have another workshop, which will be with the sheriff's office. And the 30th, we have a Sunrise Watershed Management Organization meeting at 6:30 at East Bethel. And the next regular town board meeting is scheduled for October 28th at 6:30 right here following our workshop. Did I miss anything?
the History Club is having their Carlos Avery Fire event on the 20th also. I'm not,
7 PM.
7 PM in the senior
community-
center.
Senior Community Center.
So that might be something that everyone might want to
And then Saturday, the 25th is the Halloween celebration event at the school, the trunk or treat and the school forest hike, because we won't meet until after that. So make sure everyone is aware of that stellar fun event. That'll be that evening at the three locations inside the school, in the forest, and church does trunk or treat.
Linwood Covenant.
Do you know what time the
Your-
party
your-
starts?
Your costume's still gonna be a surprise? Your costume's still gonna be a surprise what you're gonna be?
Do we know what time the party starts? I missed that.
Oh, 5 o'clock, everything.
5 o'clock, okay. Wonderful. Thank you for adding those in. Those are actually really good things there to attend. All right, anything else? Anything else before the board? Yep, one more. Come on up.
The road and bridge foreman. Tony D.
Yeah.
Temple Creek. That would be you, correct?
Yep,
Have you been getting updates on the truck that's at the repair shop?
actually, we've got one back and the second one is in now.
The second one?
Yeah, for the DOT inspection.
Okay,
Yep. First one was supposed to have come back last week, but middle of the week. And Jack was gonna run the other one up, drop it off, bring the other one back.
did we ever find out how that pin got sheared off?
We don't know what the cause of it was. Just in the middle of plowing. I have no idea what was hit or if there was anything hit or what happened.
Nobody owned up to anything. The reason that I went by there today and I seen the truck with the blade up in the air. And that was the way, the one I know of is number one, the 2015 Freightliner had been sitting for quite some time with the blade up in the air and the wing up. A lot of sprung weight just sitting there. And you can tell it hadn't been moved in quite a while. The grass was probably about 8 inches tall.
Okay.
So, and I was also told it was kept inside, which was an outright lie.
I don't know who told you. I knew it was outside, so I don't know who told you that, but yeah, that was incorrect. So,
So
no, it's really
anyways,
good to know. I appreciate that.
It's just the same, a shame to see that truck sit out in the sun like that for so long.
Yeah.
Like the summer before.
Yeah.
Where they both sat out in the sun all summer.
Oh,
Anyways,
All right, great. Thank you. All right, anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:19 PM. Thank you, everybody. Good night.